Merry Christmas, Cousin Billy. A Midnight Voices A iVox Christmas tragedy production. It was 12 years ago, on Christmas Eve, when everything went wrong. Our family had gathered, as we did every year, at Fred's little farmhouse, just outside of town. The windows glowed orange against the winter night, the smell of cinnamon and pine needles filling the air. Laughter, coffee cups clinking, the hum of Christmas music low on the radio. It all felt safe then, like Christmas was still something holy. At the kitchen table sat Uncle Ron, Aunt Frida, my brother David, Mom, and Cousin Billy. The old Scrabble board was spread out under the warm light of the chandelier. Billy had that big, open smile of his, the kind that made everyone else want to smile too. But that night Uncle Ron wasn't smiling. Uncle Ron was the kind of man who liked to win at everything. Games, arguments, attention. He had that mean kind of pride that wears a Santa hat and calls it humor. And Billy, well, Billy was slow, gentle, the kind of soul who took things too literally and forgave too easily. His mother, Aunt Lydia, used to say he just wasn't the same after they vaccinated him at 4. Like something dimmed inside. Billy tried to spell a word that night. Christmas, I think it was. Uncle Ron's lip curled. Primus? He mocked. That's not even a word. You trying to cheat, boy? Billy's face turned pink. I'm not trying to cheat, Uncle Ron. I just don't spell too good. Mom shifted in her chair, sensing the storm brewing. David rolled his eyes and muttered, Here we go again. Billy quietly removed his tiles and placed a new word. Cat. It blocked Uncle Ron's high-scoring move. Uncle Ron's jaw tightened. You did that on purpose. Billy looked confused. It's just a word. Uncle Ron slammed his coffee mug on the table, the liquid splashing like blood on the cream-colored tablecloth. Right then, Christmas carolers appear outside the window. Their voices floated through the cold night air. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Uncle Ron's temper sat like an icicle. He pushed back his chair, stomped to the window, threw it open, and shouted, Shut up! We're trying to play a game in here, and Cousin Billy keeps trying to cheat. The carolers fell silent, stunned. Snowflakes drifted in through the open window and landed on the Scrabble board. Billy looked small, his hands trembling over the tiles. David rose to his feet. You're drunk, Ron. Why don't you cool it? Uncle Ron turned, red-faced, eyes glassy with bourbon. You telling me what to do in my sister's house? Aunt Frida tried to calm him. Ron, please. Let's just go home. But he wasn't hearing her. He was locked onto Billy, who now stood too, fist balled up but eyes wet. I said I'm not cheating, Billy said, his voice shaking. Outside, the carolers began again, this time louder. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. And that's when all hell broke loose. Uncle Ron spun back, fists clenched. David stepped in front of him. Back off, Ron. Uncle Ron hit him hard. David went down, his head striking the leg of the table. The Christmas lights reflected in his eyes as they rolled back. Mom screamed and grabbed her phone. I remember shouting, Uncle Ron, you shouldn't have done that. And then his fist came for me. The world exploded into light and pain. I hit the floor, the smell of pine and blood mixing in my nose, the carolers' voices fading into a broken echo. The last thing I saw was Cousin Billy lunging across the table, his chair toppling behind him. When I woke up, it was Christmas Day. The hospital room smelled of disinfectant and wilted poinsettias. I was wrapped in bandages, my jaw wired shut, my arm in a cast. Mom was sitting beside me, her eyes hollow, her face pale. She told me what happened after I went down, how Cousin Billy fought like a cornered animal, how Uncle Ron tried to strangle him with a string of Christmas lights, how Billy, fueled by something primal and heartbroken, had turned the tables, how he'd slammed Uncle Ron into the wall, again and again, screaming, I don't cheat. I don't cheat. By the time the police arrived, both of them were on the floor. Uncle Ron alive. Billy. Mom's voice cracked then. She couldn't finish the sentence. Cousin Billy was gone. They said Uncle Ron sat there afterward, rocking back and forth, whispering that it was an accident, that Billy wouldn't stay down. But everyone knew. He was charged with manslaughter, though in truth it was murder. The Christmas carolers were ticketed for disturbing the peace after 10 o'clock. That's how absurd it all became. A night of joy turned into a police report and a family curse. Uncle Ron never made it to trial. They found him in his jail cell a week later, hanging from the sheaves, his eyes open, his mouth frozen in apology. Scrawled on the wall, in soap, was a single phrase: "Keep didn't cheat." Aunt Frida moved away, changed her name, never spoke to anyone again. Every Christmas, she sends one postcard, always with the same thing on it, 3 Scrabble tiles glued to the paper, spelling out sorry. At Billy's funeral on New Year's Day, the ground was hard with frost. Mom stood over the grave, silent. The headstone was simple but beautiful gray marble with Scrabble tiles engraved in brass, reading, "Merry Christmas. Next year we'll just play Yahtzee." Snow began to fall. The wind sang low through the trees. For a moment, I thought I heard Billy humming Silent Night. Mom squeezed my hand. "He was a good boy," she whispered. I looked at the headstone and said softly, "Merry Christmas, Cousin Billy. Happy New Year, buddy." Years passed. The farmhouse was sold, the Scrabble board boxed away. But every Christmas Eve I still set up the old board in Billy's memory. I never moved the tiles. They're frozen in time. Spelling Sahegoschiawai. Sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet and the snow starts to fall, I hear the faint sound of humming outside my window. Once, I even saw a shape in the snow, a man in a red parka, smiling through the frost, his face kind and gentle. When I opened the door, he was gone. But lying on the porch railing were 3 Scrabble tiles, damp with melting snow. They spelled, "Let it be." I closed my eyes, felt the sting of cold air, and whispered into the night, "Merry Christmas, Cousin Billy." The wind carried the words away, and the church bells began to ring, echoing through the frozen world. A hymn for the lost, and a prayer for peace that never quite arrives.